Hi all, this is your Professor Ian. I'm posting a short video about the pop culture mythology project, which is coming up. Let's see, I just put together all the instructions um, and posted them to Canvas right now. So let me walk us through that. If you're at the home page, click on modules. Of course, your page will look a little bit different, but if you scroll down past unit number 1, let me publish this. There we go. I added a separate module with all the information about the pop culture mythology project. And there's one kind of general information page, and then there are 4 components to it. So let's walk through this together. The main page has instructions, if I just scroll through, and then a breakdown of the different parts of this project. So let's talk about it together. This is going to take place over week 4, kind of towards the end of week 4. You and either 3 or 4 of your classmates. I think I have 2 groups of 5, but it's really designed for groups of 4. 5 is fine, but anyways, you and 3 classmates are going to choose a major mythological figure. Doesn't have to be Greek. Could be Thor. Could be Odin. It doesn't matter to me. Just whatever you guys want to work on. As I note, we're down here. The main thing you want to think about is choosing a major figure with a lot of contemporary representations. If you choose something, obscure like Scylla or the Harpies or something like that from Greek mythology, it's going to be challenging to come up with representations. You're much better to choose something like someone like Medusa or Achilles or Thor or Ra or like a major god that has representations in movies and books and video games and such, because that's what you're going to be working on here. So I've already formed the groups, did that randomly. You've been assigned to groups. You have your own discussion forum that should be available to you, right? So what you want to do is you want to go to that discussion forum, introduce yourselves, okay? Hey, I'm Peter. I'm in this class. Whatever. It doesn't have to be super long. Just introduce yourself so you know who's in the group. Then you want to decide on a figure to work on, okay? Again, it doesn't have to come from Greek tradition, but it has to be a major figure, okay? And I don't care if there's multiple groups working on the same figure. It's not first come, first serve. It's totally fine if six groups want to work on Zeus. I'm okay with that. But please do decide on a figure. If you don't decide by this Sunday, I know it's a tight deadline, but this is an 8-week course, so things move quickly. I'll decide for you. I'll just assign you a major figure. If you can't decide amongst yourselves, just let me know and I'll assign you a figure too. It's not the end of the world. I'd rather take care of it that way than have some kind of conflict. Everybody has very different opinions about what they want to work on. Hopefully you can reach a decision very easily. Remember, it's just a project to do as a group. It's not the end of the world. You don't have to write your final paper on this. Okay, just meant to be a little bit of a fun way to think about the representations of these figures. Then the presentation itself, you're going to be using an app called Wakelet, and it's kind of an online curation program. It's very easy. I've used it in previous semesters. Students enjoy it. They find it very easy to use. You can use it on your phone very easily. We're going to be doing your reflection for week 3. So next week we'll be done using Wakelet. So everybody's going to get experience using this program before you have to work on your group project. Okay, so don't worry about this too much right now, but the software, you can start working on it right away if you want. But again, next week you're going to be doing a reflection using this program, so you're going to get experience. You're going to use it later on this semester too when you work on your final project. So that's why I like to do some training with it right away or early in the semester. Okay, when you decide, if you have a group of 4, you need to come up with 3 pop culture representations or 4 pop culture representations if you have a group of 5. So that means, the way I was thinking you might want to split up the work is you assign 3 people to find 3 different representations, and then one person kind of takes the role of putting together your Wakelet project and perhaps editing your paper when you write that, your write-up afterwards. Right? It's up to you to decide who does what, but that's kind of what I was thinking, right? That way 3 people can go find representations, do a little bit of research, and the other person can do a little bit of research on the figure itself, him or herself. If you choose Achilles, they can do a bit of research on Achilles as recorded in, the Iliad and Greek myth. and then the other people could find, TV shows and movies and video games that also represent him and do that part of the work. But it's up to you to decide who's going to do which part of the work. So you'll use Wakelet. You'll post to your discussion forums to set group goals, split up the work, set deadlines, all that kind of stuff. You can use non-Canvas-based communication networks, Facebook, texting, Slack, whatever. But I want you to post to the discussion forum groups just so I can keep track of what's going on. That's the fourth step, right? You've you discuss and split up your work. Your fifth step is to go and do that works. Go and do your research and find those representations. You can totally keep in touch and discuss it with each other. That's a great idea. Sixth step, after you've done your research, you've compiled your Wakelet project, you're going to post a link of that Wakelet project to the pop culture mythology presentation discussion forum. Okay, and I'll talk about that in another video. And then after you post your group's presentation to this discussion forum, you're going to look at other groups' presentations and comment on those. So it's kind of like a peer editing session almost. And then finally, each group is responsible for a brief paper. It's like 2-3 pages, brief write-up of your project. That's due on Sunday, July 5th, 11:59. So let's look at some basics of presentation. You'll be using Wakelet for the presentation, and you have to cover the following things. You need a brief intro to your figure, right? You don't need to cover every aspect of your figure. Just give us a broad strokes how this figure was mostly represented in whatever tradition, say Greek mythology, what role they played. Achilles was this great hero, but he wasn't a nice guy, so that changed over time. But just give us a brief summary of what this figure meant for the culture. That's your introduction for your project, and then you'll present your 3 or 4 different pop culture representations. So you can include clips from movies, clips from video games, passages from books, things like that, and a brief discussion of how that figure is being represented in that source. And then finally, a conclusion, a brief discussion of any patterns you find in these representations. You find that Achilles has been turned into a nice hero, into a ladies' man, into this, into that. How is he being used in contemporary pop culture, and why? Think about why, right? You don't have to have all the answers. Obviously, this is just thinking about how and why this is happening with this mythological figure. Okay, preparing for your presentation, introduce yourselves, discuss the division of labor, discuss expectations for your groups and work schedule. This is an 8-week course. There's a very quick turnaround on this project. You have about, 2 weeks. Yeah, you have 2 weeks from now to, come up with your presentation. So lots of time, but there's also a lot of other stuff going on in this course and your other courses, I'm sure, and the rest of your life. So you want to make sure that you are maximizing your time. So work expectations, schedule. If you want to get together and do like a FaceTime work session, I don't know, things like that. Obviously, we're not meeting face to face right now. That would be irresponsible for me to encourage you to do that. So I would not do that. So you should, but you could meet. You could do a Zoom session or something like that, FaceTime, whatever. Do some brainstorming right away in your discussion forums. And then let's see, the mark breakdown. So this project is worth 8% of your final grade. And that's broken down. The discussion forum I set up for each group, your engagement with that discussion forum is worth 1%. And there are specific instructions in your discussion forum of the 4 things I want, things I want you to post throughout the project. Your comment on 2 other groups' presentations is worth 1%. So everybody will post their presentations on Thursday, July 2nd, and then you have until Saturday, July 4th to comment on 2 other groups' presentations. The presentation itself is worth 3% of your final grade, and then the write-up is also worth 3%. The write-up is going to be about 5 to 7 paragraphs, depending on the size of your group. 1 paragraph introducing the figure and the kind of importance of that figure in that mythological tradition, and then 3 or 4 paragraphs, depending again on the size of your group, each one summarizing the information you presented in your presentation about these representations, right? So just summarizing and thinking about how that figure is represented in, say, Gods of War, that video game, right? That's something people in the past have done for this presentation. So a paragraph for each of your representations, and then a couple paragraphs concluding and just drawing conclusions, thinking about patterns of change in these representations, why you think maybe this figure has been changed in these ways, that kind of stuff. So a paragraph or two concluding those things. And that write-up is due on Sunday, July 5th at 11:59 p.m. And I know this is all taking place over the July 4th weekend. I apologize if that seems like a bummer to you. My advice, if you're planning on having a wild July 4th weekend, is do your work ahead of time. Just get it done. Contribute to your group. As soon as people post their things on Thursday, like their own, as soon as other groups post their presentations on Thursday, go in and comment and look at them and do your work right away. And that way you don't have to worry about it over the weekend, right? So if you are, again, if you're planning on a fun July 4th weekend, you're going to go party it up somewhere, or just watch a bunch of movies. I don't know, whatever you Americans do on July 4th, do your work ahead of time. Okay, so that's just my advice there. Okay, that's about it for now. I'm going to record a video about how to use Wakelet as well, but we will be using Wakelet next week, so there's not too much to worry about. Okay, goodbye.